Welcome everyone. It's now time for the start. I think best time to go. Um, just to say that I'll take some questions on the Q&A, but if I have the time to answer them at the end, I will. If not, just come over to the stand and talk to us, and we'll be able to answer anything you want. I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Manny Cohen. I'm founder and CEO of Armadillo. I've been in the business since I was 19, in all kinds of business information, compliance, that sort of thing. So I've been around the block and built up Armadillo to what it is today. Just before we carry on as well, very important, most important thing, you can win a magnum of champagne. Just come to our stand. And not only can you win a magnum of champagne, but the most sought after soft toy in our industry, big armadillo, and a prized possession it is. Okay, so I've personally thought that today what I'd like to talk about is really why we're here. I mean, we're all in the RegTech industry. It's a huge industry, growing massively, and the real reason we're here is because we need to avoid massive fines and any kind of prosecution. We help companies from the vendor side and also from the regulator side. We use the vendors to stay out of jail, to avoid those big prosecutions, and to avoid big, massive fines with bad publicity. Okay, so let's just tell you a little bit about Armadillo. Firstly, sorry, the tech problem there. Right, basically, we have a universe of 380 million companies with 5 billion individuals. That's every single company in the world. We can get information on every adult in the world. All right, so we've been a leader in innovation and RegTech. We were the first company information database on the web as far back as 97. So 23 years experience with web-based data and information and documents. Okay, we carried that on, and we had brought out the first mobile app as well onto the market in 2011. So we've had 9 years experience of mixing data, internet, web, and mobile applications. So we can really help our clients. And we also brought out last year, just to show that innovation carries on, a much more detailed global document ordering and delivery system of company documents from anywhere in the world, and allows clients to not only find the companies in the different jurisdictions, but also versatility of applying for all kinds of documents that they need for their due diligence. And we're actually the system's quite good, so we're carried by several channel partners, and also we are white labeled by various partners as well. So here we say unparalleled expertise, 23 years in data supply alone. In RegTech and compliance, okay? So we can access, our universe goes to 1,000 plus registries. It's 1,000 plus in 220 countries. Okay, so the great thing about us is that we've also got in our group 3 regulated businesses, 2 with HMRC compliance, another one with the Solicitors Regulatory Authority, the SRA. So if you're an MLRO or a compliance officer, a head of compliance, data, a director of risk or whatever, trust me, we understand your pain. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just sort of like set the scene a bit. Okay, so there's been a raft of information, regulation, as you all know. 5 EU directives already. First one actually started as way back as 1990. We got our 6th one coming out in December, which is kind of more an amalgamation of all of the other ones. And it just goes deeper, brings in more countries, more about harmonization. But that comes in on the 3rd of December. A massive amount of those. And then also, We've got things like the UK Criminal Finances Act. And what happens with that is that it brings in, and every country also around the EU especially has got a sort of similar thing, where what actually happens is that if you do something in your country, say in Europe, and something happens because of your actions, South America, Asia, wherever, and it's illegal, you could be prosecuted for something else outside of your own jurisdiction. And that is a fundamental change in the concept of international law, because normally you could, before that, you couldn't be prosecuted for something else outside of your own country if it wasn't illegal in your own country. But this is different now. So regulators, okay, since about 2010, there was a G20 meeting and they got together. More and more governments put a lot of more money into their regulators. And around about 2015, 16, they'd booked their offices, they trained people, they've got really into it. And so they've been growing in manpower and massively since then as well. So lately, COVID permitting now, they've increased their inspections. So they're going to go more electronic for a while, I would assume. And they've got tougher inspections. They're not letting you, before when they first used to come out, it was more advisory. Now they're not at all, not at all. They're expecting you to know what you're doing. They've got things like a name and shame policy. I mean, really, what you don't want is bad publicity. Avoiding that at all costs. And of course, large corporate fines. Okay, so, you know, we've all heard the stories. And just to show, you know, a few cases here, Deutsche Bank. I mean, Deutsche Bank, they seem to be constantly in the news. I mean, when have you known a major bank being raided you know, their offices raided, boxes being taken out, things like that, by the police and the regulators. And I mean, they had about $1.5 billion of fines over the last few years. And the last one was at the beginning of the summer, because they were in the Epstein case and got involved in that. Also didn't do their KYC. Standard Chartered, you know, massive fines, didn't do proper KYC and know and due diligence on their own clients. International Bank, you know, very well respected. Beginning of the summer, Commerce Bank got dragged into it. Again, failures in KYC and due diligence, such basic stuff. And this is 2020. And this is not all recent things. This is from between 2017 and 2019, after they've been warned. We've had $36 billion for AML and KYC by December in fines by December 2019. 36 billion, and it goes on, and it goes on. And this is the thing, folks, guilty unless you have to prove yourself innocent. You're automatically guilty in the prosecution. You have to prove that you mitigated it. You did the things that you had to do to prove your innocence. It's probably the only laws, certainly in the Western world, where you have to prove that you did everything possible not to be guilty. It's all about suspicion. You should, it's in a sense, I suppose, a bit like the movie Minority Report. In advance, you should have suspected. You should have had all of the processes in place, etc. Yes, the individual is responsible. Doesn't matter if you're the compliance officer, the money laundering reporting officer, or the salesperson at the front end. You should have known. It gives responsibility not just to the companies as such, but hands it to the individual. They're personally liable. And in December this year, when the 6th directive comes out, it's going to be a 4-year minimum jail sentence. So it's 4 to 14, before it was 1. Today it's 1. From December, 4 years minimum jail sentence. And of course, everybody says, well, it wasn't me, it was the company. You know, I'm hiding that. No. You can't hide. None of us all money laundering reporting officers, all compliance officers, anybody who deals with the clients cannot hide behind that veil of incorporation that was there before. So, how do we do it? How do we stop and avoid that prosecution? I mean, that's what it is. It's all about prevention, okay? Because in a sense, it's ultimately we're trying to prevent money laundering. We're trying to prevent terrorist financing. But that's the whole big picture. When it comes down to it, it's all about your company and it's all about you. How do you not get prosecuted? How do you not, does your company not get those massive fines? Okay, well, the end thing is prepare for the inspections. How do you prepare for an inspection? Well, actually, most inspectors usually give you notice. Some won't. Sometimes they'll come on a spot inspection. So you have to ask yourself, are you ready for it? Is your business ready for it? Is your department ready for it? Are the people that they may come in and drag in ready for that inspection? When the inspectors come in, they can go back 7 years. That means they can ask you about companies and files from 7 years ago. Initially, they don't tend to in the first meeting, okay? But you never know. You never know. And anyway, when they come in, it may be a 5-hour meeting, all right? So they go away. You want them to go away happy so that they come and ask you for everything electronically. Right, great. Then come back, they'll come back with their memory sticks. They can come back and sit down by your members of staff, asking them questions, listening to their phone calls. And they can say to them, and with their memory stick, they can take copies of everything. You really don't want that. You want to prepare for the inspections. Something we can help you with. So Armadillo is really good with, we of course have also been inspected, so we know exactly what to expect. Because, we're in the regulated area, we've got a whole team that can come and help you prepare for that inspection. So go back to basics. Actually look at your AML policy. They will ask for it. Make sure that you've got really detailed information of every part of the process. Don't leave anything ambiguous. Leave it completely in this position where no one has a choice. They have to do it, and they have to make the decision if certain things happen, and think it through. Detail risk registers. Make sure every single client of yours has a rating, okay? A risk rating. You can have any kind of traffic light system, any marker. Make sure they have a rating. Everyone, okay? Obviously, if you're dealing with a place like Kazakhstan, you might have a high risk rating, or a company like within, say, Europe and the EU, a low risk rating. Same for an individual. When you look behind them, what they do, what effect does that have on that risk rating? The inspector will ask for it. Okay, now also through the system, put in good checking procedures and make sure that all of them are audited. What we did, okay, many years ago, we went down the ISO 9001 route to make sure that it was completely in our processes, the whole of the due diligence process, so that we also had quarterly, we have to do internal audits, and annually we get an external audit. That's great, because somebody else comes in, and we can also help you with this as well at Armadillo. Check that you've got everything going correctly within your own system and get yourselves externally looked at. Rationalize your client databases. I don't know how many people I've been into, and they always go on about them. Every company has 6 databases. Each division might have its own little database on clients, so that you might have the same client in each of the databases, but they're doing different things with different divisions and different people. You need to rationalize them. You need to put them together. They need to talk to each other so you know what your clients are doing within your business. Train your staff. And that just doesn't mean sending out a memo, okay? This means train your staff. They're saying that it was Thompson's survey a little while ago, about 15% of staff within the regulated sector will all be dealing with compliance. Make sure they're properly trained and they know what they're doing, but also make sure that the salesman at the end of the line knows what they're doing, the ones who are at the front end. You personally understand your risks. You need to know the risks within the division, within what are the risks to your business. Is there certain products that you sell that carry a higher risk? Certain types of clients, I mentioned Kazakhstan, places like that, or South America, or Central Africa. Make sure that you know all the different parts that carry that risk, even where you may have staff that you don't feel are properly trained or properly understand the whole processes behind everything. And this is a funny one, actually. You know, you might think it's a bit odd, but train your boss. Again, people say, well, our boss doesn't understand, you know, what I'm going through, all right? You need to train your boss. Your boss needs to know what's going on. They may not be within the compliance sector. The boss normally goes back to the board, or you personally may report directly to the board. Make sure they understand what's going on. Again, you need help. Armadillo can help you. We can come and tell them all about it and give them presentations, etc. Be prepared to upset people. Yeah, absolutely be prepared to upset people. Because especially salespeople and people with targets, they won't be happy with what you're doing. Don't worry about it. You have a purpose in your organization, and you need to make sure that you do everything possible to do the right thing and avoid prosecution. Be prepared to upset people. Expect internal pressure. And that's the big one. Be prepared to say no. I was at a conference a while ago with and they're all chartered accountants. And one gentleman stood up and sort of said, so are you telling me that, you know, if we find people who are doing a bit of potential money laundering or a bit dodgy, we shouldn't deal with them? Yeah, obviously that's the rules. You know, you're not supposed to do that. You know, obviously you're supposed to find money laundering. You're not supposed to work with them if you're regulated. And so he sat down, and the comment was, "Well, we're all going to lose half our clients." The funniest thing about that, half the room nodded with him. Okay, whatever. All right. So you know, you have to be prepared to say no and to send that and not take on that client. And then also SARS reports. The systems in every country really clunky. The suspicious activity reports with the regulators, etc., and the crime agencies, they're awful systems. You have to do them. It doesn't hurt you. Okay, no one knows. That's of course tipping off, and you carry on working with them. And of course, if it's illegal, you can't. If you do, you'll be prosecuted. However, all of the crime agencies allow for that, and you have to wait for them to come back and allow you to do certain processes. However, if you're doing whatever you're doing is sort of like administration, it's normal, whatever, you put in your report, make sure it's correct, get it in there, and if there's a problem, they'll come back to you. Otherwise, they're just information gathering, but it doesn't hurt. This might hurt. Spending money. It'll hurt your organization. They never want to do it. But spend money, and you save lots of money. I guarantee the 3 samples I showed you at the front, the 3 case studies, if they'd have spent 20% of what they got fined, they'd have never got fined. Think about that. They'd have never got a problem. And their management would not have serious issues. So it's all down to this, folks, culture. It's got to be a complete culture within your organization. A culture to look for things, to be aware of the loudmouth client who's shouting down the phone to try and make sure a deal goes through, about large funds coming and sitting in through accounts and then being split into smaller ones. And that goes for lawyers putting things in client accounts, small property companies, etc. Make sure that if deals fail, the money doesn't come in, go out, because it could be scams on laundering money. Make sure your staff all know in the whole organization of all the different things. Get people around the table, do a brainstorming session of all the potential cases, and look into it, make sure the training goes through, have that culture to look for it. Even though, and I like to say this as well, most people are honest. We'll deal a lot with offshore companies, and that carries on. Most people are honest, and offshore companies are perfectly legal and legitimate. Be careful of beneficial owners that try to hide a bit, don't give you permissions, etc., and are a bit awkward. We actually have a specialist team within Armadillo that can help you work with offshore companies and make sure you stay on the right side of compliance. Now, of course, there's been a massive jump in the amount of companies within regulation now. And in the fifth directive, we've just had oil and gas industry come in. We've had property rental come in, and fifth property. We've also got exchanges, not just coin exchange, Bitcoin exchanges or whatever one thinks. All kinds of exchanges, could be a stamp exchange. So you've got this massive explosion of industries now brought in under the regulations. Just not enough people. Not enough people to deal with it. There's not enough people to come and help you. You'll find it really difficult to employ people who can come and help you to help you with your compliance, etc., within your organization. It is very difficult. So all you can do, there is a solution: automate everything as much as possible. You'd be surprised how many organizations are still using manual systems with very little automation, and that the automation they have is old and it's legacy. They're not spending money. So how can we help you? What's the bottom line that Armadillo can avoid you from prosecution, your business from prosecution, the company you work for? Well, we have what we call the Armadillo Hub. We have a tech hub that takes in data and gives out data. We can build it into RPA. We can build a robotic process automation, a fully automated system for you. We can use your databases. We can use your systems you currently have. We can help you amalgamate and rationalize them. You can use our systems. You can use us through the web. You can use us, even our database system as well. We can do anything you like within the compliance space to help you avoid prosecution. And linked into that, we also have company information. Company information, documents, registry documents worldwide. We have UBO information, ultimate beneficial owners. We can find people around the world. Remember, we have access to 5 billion individuals. We supply connection trees of companies, of individuals, PEPs and sanctions, monitoring. We can come and help you. Armadillo can also link in with third-party systems. Remember, we're already carried by channel partners. So we can link in with other third-party systems that help your system. Finally, just use Armadillo. Don't risk it. Don't end up like this poor chap here. Don't end up in jail. Don't end up paying massive fines. Armadillo can help you. Don't forget to come to our stand. I'll just remind you all again. Magnum of champagne. We've got 4 of these. And of course, our Armadillo. We really want one of that. Nice talking to you all. Look forward to seeing you at our stand. Don't end up like him in this picture. Thank you very much.